want, and they get these raises, and even though they're not getting paid enough, you hear about them because they're organized on their job. They have self-organization. That's so important.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the other things that goes on, and I'm still amazed that it goes on to this day. I don't know why I'm amazed, but it does still seem to go on, is that a lot of times those people that are in power or in ruling classes and everything still seem to do a masterful job of dividing and conquering. Because I'm thinking about the way that they separate the church from the LGBT community, the way that they separate the Native American and the Latin community from the African American community. But they still seem to do this masterful job of trying to find ways versus the common things that we have in common that we need to be working on, some that you just talked about, the basic human rights that everybody should have. They find things that are different. It might be the Spanish people speak their language, Spanish, more often than standard English or whatever. That might be a tool of division, or that somebody has a different lifestyle and that the church is preaching against that lifestyle. But they seem to use a variety of methods to try to keep us divided. That divide and conquer, even in the new millennium, seems to be a very effective method that a lot of these folks are still using, that I'm oftentimes shocked that it still seems to be very effective. But I was just wondering what your assessment of that is. I mean, you've been involved in organizing it for a number of years, and I'm sure you see this, even some of the ways that they have painted you in the past. I mean, I've seen pictures where people try to, show the don't take this the wrong way, Dante, but some of the people in the media might try to paint you as the angry white man and everything, and try to use that as a dividing factor and everything.
Absolutely. I mean, we're seeing Donald Trump as a mastermind of this divide and conquer. I mean, one of the first things he did when he got to office was ban so-called, Muslim countries, right, from coming in, on the airports. And he's demonized and targeted, just like George Bush and a lot of other racist presidents before him, Arab and Muslim people. And he's doing that. He's doing that because he knows it advances his cause of creating wars and destabilization in the Middle East. It promotes, again, they're very strategic in why they're doing it, right? If they divide, the mainstream, the masses of U.S. residents from Muslims, which there's a growing population of Arab and of Muslim people in this country, of course. If they try to divide, then they think there'll be no solidarity when they try to bomb Syria or they try to bomb Iraq. And the same thing when they're attacking migrants, this whole struggle against attacking migrants, and it's not a coincidence that Venezuela, this country in Latin America, that they're trying to destabilize, a very progressive government, a very democratic government that has provided food programs, has provided literacy programs, that has distributed the oil wealth to the people, and real grassroots community councils that are deciding on their own, and indigenous and black people in Venezuela that have real rights enshrined that they did not before, that are, in the past 10 years under Hugo Chavez and Maduro, this incredible movement that they've created, that Donald Trump is now trying to, this anti-immigrant, migrant struggle, it's not a coincidence that Venezuela is the most oil-rich country, in the hemisphere. There's more oil in Venezuela, I think, than anywhere, even in Saudi Arabia, right? And it's not a coincidence that they're trying to destabilize this government, and they're using this migrant crisis. No one talks about Hillary Clinton destabilizing the coup in Honduras in 2009, undermining the democratically elected Manuel Zelaya, a progressive-leaning, again, trying to give indigenous rights and rights to the oppressed people, and she came in and wiped them out. No one's talking about that, right? And now you're seeing from Honduras, from El Salvador, all these countries that the United States in the 80s and 90s and 2000s and 2010s overthrew these governments, and now this is where you're seeing the migration. Bill Clinton then sends these free trade programs. It goes and destroys their economy. So you destroy the government, you destroy the economy. What do they got left, right? Of course people are going to migrate,
Yeah,
And
definitely.
so,
Definitely.
And it's not their fault.
Yeah, not their fault at all. I got to get to some of my other guests and everything. But real quickly, I just want to get one other comment from you before we get ready to bring out some of the other guests that I've got on the show and everything. And I definitely do appreciate you being on and everything. But real quickly, one of the things that I know has come up on this show before, and I know just in talking to other people, whether it's Jillian, whether it's some of the other folks, Carl Kenny, that have been on this show, is that sometimes I think that because somebody came from a quote-unquote activist background, we think that they are automatically going to do all the stuff that they're supposed to do when they come into office. I think that was one of the big complaints against the past president, was that he supposedly came from an activist community, and I was wondering if you actually believe that he came from that activist world. And two, did you think that sometimes the activist community might have expected too much from him and not understood the games that are played in politics? Or what is your assessment of that? One, do you feel that he came out of activism? Because I know a lot of people say, look, he was an activist in Chicago, but when he came to the office, he was not as much of an activist, and in some cases he did some things that were downright detrimental to activism.
Well, yeah, he's one person. I mean, one person can't change fundamentally a whole society, a whole system, right?
Right.
This is why I keep talking about we got to build organization, right? Like activists help to activate more people. Yeah, and Obama was very active in his community and organized a lot of things, to build, grassroots, some stuff. But, I think we have to hold these politicians accountable. When they get elected, they are up there with all the lobbyists and the ruling class we talked about earlier that is highly organized, that has their agenda and their plan in place. ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Council, they have, cookie cutter, bills that the right wing uses. Like, they are highly organized. We have to be organized to hold our people, if they're activists or not, progressive thinking or not, when they get in office. The reason, Obama not as much got done is because a lot of the movement sat back. Right, the anti-war movement was demobilized. Right, a lot of the movements just felt like, oh, good, we got him in office, we can sit back. We can never sit back. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. Right, like Ella Baker said, we have to continue to build power and organization. No matter who is in power, we have to hold them. We have to organize and keep them to their promises, because if we don't, then the rulers and our enemies will. And being in that situation, you're going to be compromised, no matter how good you are at your heart. It's not about your heart. It's about the material reality of those positions.
Yep, definitely. Yeah. So, Dante, if you want to stay on the line, you can, but if not, I definitely appreciate you being on. And, Dean, I want to let you know that in addition to all this activism work that Dante does, and now he's a new Pops and all of that kind of stuff, last week we had somebody that was more known as a musician than he is for his other job, because we had Tony Springs on, who's with Liquid Pleasure, and is known and works in the prison system trying to get people back into reentry as they get out of the prison system. And a lot of people didn't know that about Tony. Well, I can say the opposite about Dante. Dante is actually also, in addition to being an activist and all over the activism world, he's been in a couple of bands, so he's also a musician in his own right.
All right, man.
Thanks for having me, Mark. Good to see y'all.
Appreciate you.
Thanks for being on the show. All right, well, next up we're going to have Kyle Solomon come in, and he'll be in just 1 second.
Bass players, the best thing you can do for your overall sound. You've got to see this. New Bass Tone Incorporated makes Nightwalker bass guitar tube preamps. This preamp will give your sound such a boost, it's just incredible. Try it today. Try it today now. A great sounding bass guitar will make for a great sounding band. Make your band sound at its best. Best thing you can do for your bass guitar sound. NewBassTone.com. NewBassTone.com.
All right, that's New Bass Tone right there for you. So the Bass Tone man won't be jumping on you like you was a couple of weeks ago, Mark. But Mr. Solomon, welcome to Straight Talk with Dean and Mark.
I appreciate that, because when he jumps on me, I don't like it. But Kyle, how's it going there?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Thanks for having me on.
I am doing good, Kyle. Now, Kyle is a North Carolina person as well. I did not realize this until I was doing some research and saw that you have actually got roots here in North Carolina, and you've done a lot of different things. But right now you're showing people how they can use the internet and computer technology to, do all kinds of cool things. You come up with this whole platform, and it looks like if you want to, you can automatically set it up to water your plants. So you can literally be out there doing some work, doing some activism, doing whatever you want to do, and everything will be taken care of while you're gone and automatically set up and everything. So why don't you tell us a little bit about this platform and exactly how it works and what you're trying to encourage people to do with it?
Well, I think we can tie back into activism in that last conversation we had, but let me go ahead and start. Basically we're a technology company, and we basically built Wi-Fi sub-assemblies that basically let anybody create custom Wi-Fi systems without any code, any expertise, within minutes. So it's a pretty cool little platform that can take a single piece of hardware and basically turn it into 1,000 different devices by the way it operates and how users define that. So what we're doing is we're kind of tying that into a blockchain cryptocurrency initiative that's going to enable users the ability to create data profiles that will kind of tell hardware how to operate, very similar to kind of what YouTube did for content creators. So it's kind of a high-level stuff. It's some really funky stuff, but we are a blockchain initiative, and so the value of that is more or less peer-to-peer transfer of value that's immutable, cannot be changed, cannot be hacked. So it's a guaranteed, secure transfer of value. So when you take that type of technology, you can deploy this technology into our government. And the last speaker you guys had on, I didn't really catch his name, but he was very enthusiastic.
Dante.
Okay, yeah. So it's very enthusiastic about accountability, and that's how we do it.
Yes.
We're not going to change the world lining up on the left and lining up on the right. It's not going to fucking happen. Excuse my language. Sorry if you guys beat that or not. I don't know if I'm allowed to drop F-bombs.
Nope,
there's
you can
some
say
of my
what you want.
words. Excellent. So I guess what I'm getting at is that you've got this campaign of misinformation that's coming by third parties. And just so you guys know, Doja used to be an ad tech initiative. So out of every 100 publisher sites that signed up trying to get our ads, 99 of just trying to inflate ad revenue or push false information. So with what's coming out with technology, they're basically some new stuff where people are transplanting faces on top of videos to make people appear in videos to say ridiculous stuff. So actors can appear like the president and vice versa. So expect all that coming for 2020. I mean, it's no joke with what's coming up. About 2020 time frames when it's probably going to get bad, I'm estimating those cycles. But as far as coming back to blockchain root, the left and the right, it's going to get worse. The divide's going to get worse. And what I think the only common ground that we can find is hold the politicians accountable by the money flow. So if we track campaign finance and we track spending, government spending within reason on a blockchain, we know where the money's going. And so what the left can then do is go to the right and say, okay, here's everywhere where we can save money by cutting stuff that really doesn't make sense because it is a waste. And the right can say, okay, yeah, that's cool. That's all we were really trying to get to. And now you've got a dialogue because the guns aren't going anywhere. Abortion's not going anywhere. So let's work with what we can work with. And every single person, whether it be the right or the left, should be pushing for blockchain in government, period. There's no reason not to. We need to know how the money is being spent. It's the number one, I would say, use case for America to really start to come together, to be honest with you. And aside from that, I mean, the government, we're printing money every day. This is not sustainable. It's not a sustainable system. Education is not sustainable. None of it's sustainable. So we've really got to rethink stuff. And if we're betting on our politicians to save the day, we are totally fucked.
Wow.
I just had to get that out of there. So we can get back into my deck if you want, but it's very important when everything is circle.
Yeah, it sounds like it. It even sounds like some of what you're talking about could be used even to be a substitute for the Electoral College, because we know a lot of people are not big fans of the Electoral College. So it sounds like some of this new wave technology that you're talking about could even be a way to get rid of that.
Well, in a way, I mean, you can vote with it. I mean, it's a secure technology for identities, but I mean, we could get funky with it. I mean, and what I mean by funky is, okay, so there's an organization called IOHK, and they run an initiative called Cardano, and basically they're building out the third generation cryptocurrency. It's a tipping point in the market, if you will. What these guys are doing is they're bringing financial services to the 3 billion people in the world that do not have them. So when you put that into perspective, that shift and bringing that many people, giving them access to credit and financial services, and we're talking third world countries, right, where people have never had this before, that is going to bug our system. Our financial system is not going to be able to sustain that impact without significant repercussions in some way, shape, or form. So, I mean, we can tie this technology to a lot of different facets, and I know there's a lot of people out there that are all blockchain nuts and whatnot. But when you really behind it, we've got a system that's being architected that's a public service, right? It's completely transparent in certain regards where it needs to be, where we can use this as a record that cannot be changed. We can use it to secure our data. We can use it to secure our livelihoods. We can use it to cut out middlemen. I mean, there's going to be so much waste at stake. Government does not want this in its own records. I guarantee that. And so in that regard, I think that's something that if we can